We have a MacBook that appears to have flickering issues on the screen. It had water spilled on it. Let's open up this MacBook and try and figure out why it's flickering. MacBook. Random. Random. The LED driver on the board looks fine. The display circuitry looks fine. The LCD connector looks fine. Backlight output cap's fine. I mean, you've got a solder ball over here, but I mean, let's face it, this is a MacBook. If you expect this thing to be put together or soldered together in a really nice manner, then you're out of your mind. Let's see if there's a short to ground on backlight output that could be causing our issue. We got the multimeter here. We're just going to turn on Paul Daniels' execrable software and pray that it works. Let's see if we've got a short to ground on backlight output. And it appears that we don't. Now we're going to see if there's a short to ground on backlight output with the screen plugged in. Also, one thing that could often cause flickering is if the machine thinks it's going to sleep. So remember, there's a magnet in the display, and the purpose of the magnet in the display is so that when you close it, a Hall sensor which senses magnetism in the computer will tell that it's closed. So when you close the machine, the magnet that's in the lid of the screen, so let's say this is your computer, this is your keyboard, this is your screen, you got the magnet here. When you close it, the computer will see that the magnet got there, and it will tell the computer to shut off. And while I was moving around over here, I noticed that around our sleep sensor, we have some corrosion. So let's just open this up on the schematic in the board view so that you can get a better understanding of what this chip is and what it does. This is an 820-4924 board, similar to the 820-3436 or the 820-3536, but I want to be accurate. I want to have the right schematic on hand. So let's open that up, and we're going to take a look. And as you can see, the area that has its corrosion on it is J5250. J5250 is going to be our Hall sensor. This is going to be the Hall sensor that reads the value and outputs accordingly. So as you can see here, we have SMC lid, and SMC lid is going to go to the SMC and tell the machine when the machine thinks it's closed. So perhaps the flickering is because intermittently it thinks it's closed when it's not actually closed due to the corroded, nasty Hall sensor. We're going to replace that, and hopefully this MacBook will no longer flicker with the backlight while it's working. We just remove that Hall sensor. We're going to remove that Hall sensor and replace it with another one and see if this works. And after that, we're going to fix another MacBook, and another MacBook, and another MacBook, and another MacBook, and another MacBook, at random. Because if we weren't fixing MacBooks, well, what the hell else is there to do with life? Let's remove this disgusting looking Hall sensor, because this may solve our problem and allow us to get to the next MacBook even faster, so that we can fulfill our role and our mission in life. Now these ports are going to be semi-casualties of this because they have plastic ports right next to the damn sleep sensor. You're just going to have to live with the fact that they're going to see a little bit of heat. They will be casualties of this repair. Euphoria, your options are to toss that piece of garbage out and get a machine that's not a 2011. Now, this is a probe point over here, and it appears to be corroded. And this is a probe point that appears to be connecting something. So we got to figure out what that is and why it's so corroded. Not why it's so corroded, but where it's going so that we can reattach it with a jumper wire. I'll point it out. So right, see this resistor? Right above it, you've got this. The camera's not doing a great job of showing you it. It's much easier to see it in the microscope itself rather than the camera. But we are going to have to fix this trace, because that is an important trace. That is where PP3V42 underscore G3 hot is going to go over to this pad. Let's see, what if I adjust the exposure? There we go. Alright, so as you can see, this is blown out, and this is where PP3V42 is going to make its way over there. So I am going to have to scrape a little bit over here. I'm going to expose the copper. Now I have something that I can solder to. After I solder to it, I'll be able to put a jumper wire there. And once I put a jumper wire there, I'll be able to put a new Hall sensor into place. And it'll work great. And then after that, I can fix the next MacBook. And the next MacBook after that. And the next MacBook after that. From now until the end of time. Isn't that exciting, folks? Oh, yes. Alright, all fixed. Tripled up in my wire there. Now it's time to get the Hall sensor off of my donor board and solder it to this one. I can't wait to get this done so that I can fulfill my mission of fixing yet another MacBook after 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 another MacBook, so that maybe, just maybe, 20 to 30 years from now, I might purchase a home. Jesus Christ, I am being a moron here. The connector can eat it. We make it in Hall happy sensor, happy Hall sensor, happy Hall sensor, little happy, 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 happy Hall sensor. Alright. Now to show you just how happy that little USB port is. Okay, perhaps that USB port is not as happy as I thought it would be. Let's do a little bit of surgery here. Ah! Come off. Okay. Ay, that's a lot of pins to wick. But now the part here that's not fun is getting every single one of those pins to be free of solder. Because watch, I'm going to add solder to all of them and then try to wick it out, but it's not going to want to come out of all of them. That's where the pain in the ass is going to come from. You'll see in a moment. Oh, what do you know? Gootwick is so awesome that it's actually getting through the board. How many boards have you fixed in these years? I will make these holes free any way I can. It doesn't want to go in the hole. This hole does not appear to want to let me in. The hole has good taste. It's hard to twist the wick and make it nice and pointy at the end with gloves on. And I really don't want to touch this wick without gloves on. And that thing pushed through nicely. Beautiful, beautiful. Now we're going to solder that beautiful USB port onto the board. Those pins are not very long, actually really, really short. Makes me wonder how the hell any of this is going to make it. I guess a lot of flux and a lot of solder flow is going to be important here. That USB port looks perfectly straight to me. And I could do just to make sure that thing is nicely soldered in. It's the same thing I did before, but just in reverse. I'm going to push down on the USB port while I heat the solder from the bottom. just to make sure it's pushed in there nicely. Actually, yeah, I don't really have a way to do this without warping the board. So this is probably not the best idea. Let's see. If I want to avoid warping the board, get it as close to the desk as I can, yeah, this is the way to do it. Alright, this board is pretty toasted. Let's see if we have a flickering screen, though. Because if we don't have a flickering screen, we might have just accomplished something. The smoke disappeared. I'm sure it's just fine now. Probably just a little puff to let me know that it was ready. There we go. We have an Apple logo. No flickering. A beautiful Apple logo with no flickering. Joy. So this has been fixed. This works. So we had to replace the sleep sensor. And because I'm an idiot who botched the replacement of the sleep sensor and messed up the USB port, we replaced the USB port. Because if I botch something while fixing it, then I will fix what I botched, because that's the honorable thing to do. So that's about it for this board. Works good. The sleep sensor was causing the SMC lid signal to go up and down due to corrosion. Most likely corrosion on the PP3V42 via that was actually going to the sleep sensor, so I may have just been able to get away with just putting a wire there and not even replacing the sleep sensor at all. But if I had not replaced the sleep sensor and it wound up coming back a month or two later because it needed a sleep sensor for warranty, I would have felt pretty stupid and pretty bad, especially about wasting their time. If there's something I can do to keep it from coming back for warranty later, if there's something that I can do just to make sure I get like a 1 or 2% extra chance that the thing's actually going to work without having to come back ever again, I will do it even if it winds up wasting stupid amounts of my time. Like this one. But it worked. So that's that. And as always, I hope you learned something. With that, we move on to the next MacBook. It is 12:10 a.m. It is a Wednesday morning, which is a perfect time to, take another stack of MacBooks from the queue and get them fixed. Do you have a MacBook that needs to be fixed? Come by our store, which is open to the public at 186 First Avenue in Manhattan. Are you located outside of New York? No problem. Send us a machine from anywhere in the world by going to our website and clicking on the mailbox, or simply heading over to sendyourmacbook.com. That's sendyourmacbook.com, where you'll be redirected to our mail-in instructions page that includes the form and the directions on how to send us a MacBook for repair. We have a live chat where you can speak with us about the repair that you need, a phone number where a representative will pick up during our open hours, and a contact form where you can contact us about repairs.